So you want to start making money online using the method Amazon FBA, but you have no idea how much does it really cost. Is it going to break your bank? Well, today I'm going to break down every single cost that you will ever need to know about starting an Amazon FBA business, including all the hidden fees that you need to know as well. I have been selling on Amazon for over 5 years now, and I have reached over 7-figure consistently every single year, and we have helped over 200 beginners start and scale their Amazon FBA business. So in this video, I'm going to be using our years of experience to let you know exactly how much you would need to start your Amazon FBA business. Just a quick introduction onto what Amazon FBA is. So what FBA stands for is Fulfillment by Amazon. It is quite literally what it is on there. So to put it simply, all you gotta do is find a product that you wanted to sell for and you wanted to ship it all the way to Amazon warehouse. Once it is there in the Amazon warehouse, the FBA service begins, meaning that you can start listing your product on Amazon.com, which is currently the biggest e-commerce platform in the world. And in that platform, there's going to be millions and millions of buyers trying to buy something on there. And once they find your product and purchase it, guess what? You don't need to do a thing. You don't need to lift a finger. Amazon is going to fulfill that order on your behalf. And that's literally what Amazon FBA is, meaning that Amazon will do all of the heavy lifting for you. Once a customer places an order, they will pick and pack your product from the warehouse, and they're going to ship your product directly to that customer's front door in a very, very fast shipping time. Some states offer like same day shipping or the next day shipping. So when a customer actually buys something from Amazon, they could receive within 1 day. And most likely you have experienced these sort of services before as well. And the reason why people are so interested in this business model is that they can do this completely remotely, and they can do this in their spare time after 9 to 5 and start this as a complete side hustle, because Amazon was going to do all of the heavy lifting for you. You don't need a team, you don't need a truck driver, you don't need to worry where your product is going to be stored at. Amazon made it so easy for you. And the good news is, unlike any other traditional business out there, this is one of the businesses where you can start extremely small with an extremely low budget and scale it indefinitely high, like $2 million per year to like $10 million per year. All of these are possible numbers. Okay, so now let's actually get down to how much does it actually cost for you to start your Amazon FBA business. The number one thing that we're going to be talking about is the tools that we're going to be using throughout our Amazon journey. Now, the number one tool that we have to use is something that's called Helium 10, which I would just put it as H10 in here. Now, Helium 10 costs about $39 per month with its basic plan. So by recommendations, this is one of the must-have tools for every Amazon sellers because it includes every single thing that you'll be needing inside of selling your Amazon products. Most importantly, when you first started, it has a product research tool that you can basically use this tool to find your first winning product. And I actually have a link down below in the description that has a discount link for you. So if you want to get started on selling on Amazon and try to find your first winning product using Helium 10, you can get a special discount down below. Now, the second tool that I will absolutely recommend everyone to use is something that's called Keepa. I've mentioned this tool in a lot of my videos because this is such an amazing tool that can track a lot of your competitors' data. That's correct. Whatever that your competitors was doing before, how much was they pricing their products? How well are they currently selling? Which variation of that product is currently selling the best? Which variations are customers buying the most? That really helps you gain a lot of data throughout your competitors, throughout your markets, and give you a really good insight when you're trying to pick your first product as well. I would definitely recommend this. Now, for Keepa, it is around $200 per year. So this is not going to be a very cheap tool, but if we break it down into months, that is around $17 per month. In order to start selling on Amazon, you will need to subscribe to Amazon Seller Program. So for a professional seller account, Amazon actually charges you around $39.99 per month. But the best thing is that there is also a basic seller account option for you that costs $0. And the pro tip here is that you don't need to sign up for the professional account unless you have done all the product research and select the product and going to ship it into Amazon warehouse. Until then, you don't need to sign up for that professional subscription. So for Amazon subscriptions, it's actually $0 per month. So in terms of software and tools that you need to start selling on Amazon, that's it. That is how much exactly that you will need to start to prepare starting your Amazon journey. So in total, the tools and the subscriptions, it's only going to cost you about $56 when you first started. The only thing that you need to pay is the $200 per year plus the first month of Helium 10 subscription. And to be honest, when you first started using Helium 10, you don't even need to pay. There is a basic free option for you to explore and play around. But because I know everyone's going to subscribe, I'm just going to put that in there. It's going to be around $239 for software subscriptions before you start. Now, here comes the fun part. If you're trying to sell on Amazon, you're probably wondering, do I need a company to do this? Do I need to start up a corporation to do this? Do I need to start a LLC to do this? Well, the answer to this is no. You don't need to start an LLC. You don't need to have a company to start selling on Amazon. You can do this completely as an individual or doing business as a sole prop. But the thing is, if you're really serious about the business, I would recommend you to start your own company. The reason being is that having an LLC company structure, that means that you will have limited liability and you will have a lot of tax benefits as well. So if you start making money from an Amazon business, you're going to pay a much lower tax. And you're also going to enjoy a lot of the business benefits. Like for example, like all of your inventory expenses, all of your shipping expenses, all of them can be categorized as a business expense. But since you can start this business as a complete individual, you don't need to spend a dime on creating your company. But that is highly recommended to do so. Now, you're probably wondering, if I start as an individual, can I later on upgrade it to a company? Can I update my company structures? The answer is yes. If you've wanted to do that way, that is completely fine with Amazon. All you gotta do is go on to your Amazon Seller Central and then update your business informations, and that's it. Starting a company, I'll put this as 0 first. All right, so if you wanted to start as an individual, it's going to cost you $0. But if you want to start as a company, it's going to cost you around $200 to $400 to set everything up. It's not that crazy, right? All right, so now that you have found a product, now that you wanted to start actually ordering your product, now that you have to start thinking about the branding itself, because we're going to sell something that is in our brand. We're going to sell something that has our logo printed on the product. We're going to do something that's called private labeling. We're building our own brand within the Amazon platform. We're going to use Amazon to build an international brand. So how much does it cost for us to do the branding itself? Let's take a look. Now, in order to have a good brand, you gotta have a logo design, right? For logo, if I just use Canva, for logo, it starts from $0 to all the way up to like $500. So for logos, it has a big range, right? If you are just starting out, you can design a logo for completely free on Canva. So that logo only costs you a little bit of time to actually get the designs yourself by using Canva. So that costs $0. But if you are a very serious person and you want to have a really good logo, you can probably get that design for around like $500 to find a professional to do this for you. And if you're like a multi-billion-dollar company, you can spend like $1 million on just the logo itself, right? Like Nike, Coca-Cola, right? But of course, as an Amazon seller, we don't need to consider that. So I'm going to cross this out. But logo, you can literally do this for free on Canva, especially if you have a tight budget and you are just starting out. I wouldn't recommend trying to find someone to do this for a very expensive price if you have a tight budget. Let's get on to the packaging of your product. Now, for packagings, this is something that obviously it's going to be really hard for you to do it yourself, but you can do it as well. For Canva, again, it's going to cost you $0 to get a design through Canva, but if you don't know how to do your copywritings, if you don't know what to put on there, it's not going to look that appealing. And the reason why we're trying to have a good packaging design is that once our customer receives the product, the number one thing that the customer is going to see is the packaging itself. So the packaging is actually the first impression of the product before the customer actually uses the product itself. It is just like you're going to a fancy restaurant and then they bring out a very fancy plating, a very beautiful looking plate of dish in front of you, and that gives you a really good feelings about the food before you actually eat it. And that gives you a really good impressions, a fancy impression before you actually have the food. So that is what the packaging is. But if the fancy restaurant brings you a plate of food that just looks absolutely horrendous, but it actually tastes really good, which one would you rather have? Most people would rather have something that is presented nicely, that gives them a really good first impressions before having to use the product. So to have a decent packaging design done, you are probably going to spend around $300 to $500. just to get your packaging done beautifully. Now, in order to legally own your brand, you need to file a trademark to the government so that you are letting the government know, I come up with this brand name, I come up with this brand, I come up with this logo. I want you to legally protect it so my other competitors cannot just use my brand, my logo on their products. So that is what we call a trademark. We're going to trademark our brand. So how much does a trademark cost? Now, for trademark fees, it usually costs around $300 to $500. The reason why there's a gap is because if you're trying to file a trademark completely by yourself, you can probably do this with just $300 of the government mandatory legal fees that you have to pay the government in order to file this trademark. But if you don't know how to do it, you can hire a third-party lawyer to do this completely for you. Or, well, then you probably have to pay a legal fees to the lawyers to get this done for you. And that will basically cost you around $500 or so. Let's see how much does it actually cost us for the branding itself to start on Amazon FBA. So for logos, we can start this completely for free at $0. For packagings, I would recommend people to start doing this for you, although you can do it at $0, but I would still recommend you going at around $300 to the $500 range. So that is around $300 for the packaging. And for trademark, let's just say that you're going to do this completely by yourself, then it's going to be costing around $300 to start as well. So the branding itself is going to cost you a total of $600 for branding. I want you to excuse my ugly writings, but it is what it is. Now let's actually get into the fun stuff, which is ordering your first inventory. How much money do you need to order your first batch of inventory? Now this is going to be the most amount of money you're ever going to spend when you start on this business. So let's take a look. When we're talking about ordering inventory, this is going to be very, very dependent on the individual because everyone will select different products and different product can have different costs. And depending on the person's budgets, they can buy either a lot of products upfront or a very few upfront. So what I'm going to give you is a minimum cost scenario for a beginner to basically start this business. Now let's just say that the product that you have selected is going to cost around $5 to manufacture, plus shipping. Is going to cost you about $5. And how much units should you order? I would recommend ordering around 60 days of supply. 60 days of supply. Let's just say that you're selling around 10 to 15 units per day, every single day. So 10 times 60 equals 600 units. And for 600 units, let's times $5. And that will cost around $3,000. $3,000 is how much you will be needing to purchase your first round of test order. So for your first batch of order, because you are still testing this market, you are testing this product, you're only going to spend around $3,000 on purchasing the inventory plus shipping into the Amazon and see how the market reacts of your particular product. So when you are selling this product and you are seeing a good result, then that is a really good sign for you to keep on reordering that particular product. But if the product doesn't do well, because it is a test order, you did not lose a ton of money on inventory itself. Now, the next thing you have to spend money on your Amazon FBA business is the listing development. The listing development is one of the most important aspects that determines if your product is going to sell or not. Think of this as a restaurant front. If you see a really crappy restaurant front, which has like garbages, which has a terrible locations, which has a lot of hobos hanging around, which has a lot of garbages on the floor, and it has a really bad looking front, and it did not spend any money on the renovation itself, so it just looked really crappy. Versus a really fancy restaurant, right? It's under the building of a 5-star hotel, which has like a lot of waiters in like suits and dresses, making the place looks really professional, really fancy. Which one would you rather go in? So it doesn't matter how good the food actually is in the crappy looking restaurant, people are not going to go inside of that crappy looking restaurant because the packaging looks bad. People will have no interest in the product itself. This is just like your Amazon listing. If you have a terrible listing images, people are not going to click in to your Amazon listing and actually look at the details of your product. So if no one are willing to go into your Amazon listing, no one is going to buy it. And if we're using the crappy restaurant example again, do you think that the owner can charge a premium price on their menu? Most probably not, because the packaging, the renovations of the restaurant just looks so crappy. People are not willing to go in. People are not willing to pay a premium price on whatever that is offering, no matter how good the food is. Same as your Amazon listing. But for the premium, fancy looking restaurant front, they are able to charge a extremely premium price on their food. Even if their food doesn't taste as good as the crappy restaurants, people are much more willing to go to the fancy restaurants, make a booking, make a reservations months and months ahead of time because that fancy restaurant has a good packaging. Back to the listing quality. If you have a extraordinary listing quality, if you have extraordinary image taken by really, really professional photographers, if you are able to make your product looks much more better than your competitors, even though they are the same product, you are able to charge a premium price. You are able to charge higher price, have higher margins than your competitors. And guess what? People are much more willing to click into your listing as well because you're presenting your product in a much better way. So that is why I would recommend not saving a dime onto listing development. This is going to be the most important thing that determines if your product is going to success or not. Now, to get a really, really professional listing development done, it will cost you around $2,000 all the way up to $5,000. For $5,000 listing, that is if you want the best out of best. Everything is the best, including a product video as well. Now, product video is not recommended for every single person, but if you want to make it extreme, then product video is something that you might want to consider doing. Now, last but not least is the actual advertising cost. It's the marketing cost that you will have to invest when you first started selling on Amazon. Now, although advertising is an optional thing, you don't need to spend a dime onto advertising if you don't want to, but we think it is an absolutely must. So that is why I want to include it in here. Now, how much realistically do you need to spend on advertising? So back to the inventory example, this really depends what product are you actually selling? How much quantity do you have for that product? How big of a market niche are you competing with? So for some people, all they need to do is spend around $20 on advertising, but for some other people that are competing with a lot of big sellers, they probably have to spend like $500 per day. So there's a big range over there. But I would recommend starting from $30 to $50 at a minimum when you first try to launch your first product. And this is a good budget for a test order as well. And that is per day. Also, I wanted to mention is that the cost right here, these are not a completely cost because you make money back when you advertise, right? For example, if you spend $30 per day, but then you make back $100, that means that you're not really spending $30. You're actually making $70. This is not a completely cost, which is why the advertising here is a little bit special here. I wouldn't consider every single part of this as a cost, but I'm still going to put this out there so that you can have a better idea in terms of the exact spend. This is basically how much and all of the variable fees that you have to consider on when you first try to sell on Amazon. So let's actually calculate the total amount that is minimum required if you want to start this business. So let's go all the way up to tools. The tool is $239. I'm going to put it here. $139 plus, if we're starting as an individual, it's going to cost us $0. And for branding itself, it's going to cost us around $600. So $600 plus, now for inventory, which is our biggest spend, $3,000 plus the listing development. Now, I would recommend a minimum of $2,000 spent on developing your listing. That is around Okay, and then for advertising, let's just say you are doing $30 per day. And if we times that in 30 days, that will be around $900. Now, remember that this $900, it is not a completely cost because you make money back from advertising. So, but I'm still going to put this up here. So the total amount that you will have to spend to start your Amazon FBA business is $6,739. That is how much you will have to spend to start your Amazon business. Now, of course, the more the better. The more money that you have saved up, the more aggressive that you can launch your product, the more bigger the niche that you can actually go and attack. Well, after all the calculations, this doesn't really sound that terrible, doesn't it, right? But before we end this video, let's actually take a look at the ROI of this business and why you should invest into this business right now. Now, let's take a look at the variable fees. The variable fees here is how much inventory that you're actually going to order. Every other one is going to be fixed cost. For your variable cost, it's $3,000. It's going to be how much the product is going to cost times how much units you're going to buy. Let's just say it's 600 units, and that would be around $3,000. This is your inventory purchasing. So let's just say that you're going to sell your product at $30. $30 times 600 units, that is going to be $18,000 in total revenue. Now, let's just say that you have a 40% profit margins, but after PPC, you have around 30% profit margins. How much profits are you going to be making out of this 600 units? That is around $5,400. So that means $3,000 spent, you're making $5,400 in profit. That means a over 100% ROI. Now, what if you're not ordering 600 units? Instead, you are ordering 6,000 units every single time. Think about how much money that you could be making with this business model right here. Now, if you have been enjoying this video so far, you're going to love what I'm going to share with you. So as a thank you of being here, of staying to the last of the video, I want to give you a gift. I actually prepared a 60-page complete Amazon FBA blueprint that includes everything. That includes how to create your Amazon account, that creates how to reach out to suppliers. I have a complete supplier template in there, how to do your PPC, how to find your products, how to validate your products, how to scale your product up to the moon. All of the informations are inside of that FBA blueprint. All you gotta do is comment down below, I want that blueprint, and we will send it to you. Simple as that. And also, if you want to learn more about Amazon FBA every single day, go ahead and follow my Instagram. I will be posting very valuable information on there every single day. And I'll see you there. Bye-bye.